Hi there, friendo. So today what I have with me is this thing called Vraylar. Uh, it is an atypical antipsychotic that I got prescribed, and it's in this little box because it's not covered by my insurance, and so I have professional samples, and in a month, if it ends up working, then hopefully I'll be able to get it covered by my insurance. But we'll see if I even get to that point. I feel pretty hopeful about Vraylar for a couple of reasons. One, I think that it has an awesome name. Vraylar sounds like some kind of cool Star Wars character, or like, it sounds like what my Sith name would be. So like, my normal name's Rey, and then if I became evil, I would be Vraylar. Vraylar, the depressed. So the other reason I feel really hopeful about it is because I've never heard of it before, and neither have my parents, who are mental health professionals who've heard of like everything. So if it's so atypical that loads of people haven't heard of it, maybe it's atypical enough that it'll deal with whatever I've got going on in my brain. You never know. It probably won't, but we can try, and that's what matters. Huh. So this isn't like an infomercial for Vraylar. I guess it could be, but I didn't want that. But I did want to use Vraylar as an opportunity to talk about psychology. I really love psychology, and I think it's cool to hear about things that I've never heard about before, like Vraylar. Those of you who know me personally might know that I'm studying psychology at university, and when I tell people this, I get this reaction that's always like, and I think it's like something that everyone who's studying psychology gets, which is, oh, you'll make such a great therapist. And it's like, oh, one, that's patently untrue. I would be like the worst therapist ever. I would get distracted by like my immortal. And two, I'm not going to school to be a therapist. I'm studying social psychology, actually. And I wanted to talk about social psychology for a little bit because I think it's really cool, and I want everyone to share in how cool it is with me. So social psychology really came into prominence after the Second World War, because basically the United States and, you know, like the world in general, but mostly the United States wanted to sit there and go, we could never do the Holocaust. Right? Right, guys? Right? And so they came up with all these experiments to try to determine certain aspects of human nature, like, and so one of the most notable social psychology experiments, ones that everyone remembers, would be the Milgram shock experiment, which is where you have the researcher and he greets the subject and is like, hey, we want to see if administering electric shocks is going to help people's memory. So whenever someone answers a question wrong, you're going to deliver an electric shock to them, and the other person is on the other side of this wall. The other person isn't a subject, they're an actor. And when they get something wrong, the person shocks them, like presses a button, and they like cry out in pain. They're like, oh, ow, and every time the shocks get supposedly bigger, and they reach like dangerous, deadly to just XXX, which is horrifying because most people delivered every shock that they were asked to. And in particular, they were more likely to do it if the person was like wearing a lab coat and said that they were a research professor or that they had some level of authority. And that's a little bit horrifying, because all of us want to say that we wouldn't do that sort of thing, but statistically, a lot of us probably would, which is crazy, and that's what I love about social psychology. A lot of people don't take it very seriously as a science because they're like, oh, we are just studying intuitive things, this is just how people act. But the truth is, what I love about social psychology is that we try to study what people don't necessarily want to believe about themselves. And I think that is really awesome, honestly. So I wanted to spend this video telling you a story. And it's my favorite psychology story on the planet. And it is about something called Dust Bowl empiricism. And I learned about Dust Bowl empiricism in my personality psychology class that I took my sophomore year. It was the first university psychology course I took, because I'd taken AP psychology and I had determined that I was not going to study psychology in college, which I did anyway. Oops. Illy. Don't attack my camera. No. No. So I took this course in personality psychology, and there are obviously a few different ways that we can measure personality and personality traits. And the biggest one you are already familiar with, I'm sure. Have you ever taken a BuzzFeed test? So like, what'll happen is it'll say, pick a bunch of cheeses that you want for a cheese platter, and we'll tell you which Hogwarts house you're in. Something like that. Now, that's probably not my best example. Imagine old school Harry Potter house quizzes, where it would be like, there were like all these memes about them because they would be really obvious, right? So they would have like, how do you make your sandwich? Bravely, evilly, chomp chomp, and I'm too busy studying. And it's really obvious which answer goes to which result. And that's something called a theoretical test, where if you answer certain relevant questions, it'll give you a result. And I think that most people already know the issue with it, given the jokes about Harry Potter tests. And it's that, obviously, if I really, really want to be a Gryffindor, then I can just answer the questions that'll show me that I'm a Gryffindor. You know, it's not cheat the system, you can cheat yourself. I could go around living my whole life trying to pretend to be a Gryffindor when really I'm a Jigglypuff. What you gonna do? So, in the 30s, in the Midwest United States, it was during the Dust Bowl, hence Dust Bowl empiricism. It was also named Dust Bowl empiricism because the method itself was very dry. So, as opposed to theoretical tests where you answer related questions and you get a correlated answer that makes sense, Dust Bowl empiricism, empirical tests are absolutely incredible. Oh my god. So, imagine this. You get two groups of people in a room. One group of people is all schizophrenic people, and the other group of people, none of them have schizophrenia. And you separate out these two groups of people. So you get the people with schizophrenia, and you ask them all these questions, and you get the people without schizophrenia, and you ask them all these same questions. And whichever issues there was a significant difference between them, it was determined that it should be a part of the testing to see if you would have schizophrenia or not. So a theoretical test for schizophrenia would be like, do you hear voices? Or do you hallucinate? To which I would say, yes, I don't have schizophrenia, I'm just crazy. I think I just have psychotic depression. But a theoretical test, they would ask you relevant questions, and if you answered enough of them positively, they'd be like, yes, you have schizophrenia. But the empirical test, they could end up saying, like, do you prefer showers or baths? And maybe loads of people who have schizophrenia prefer showers, and loads of people who didn't preferred baths. And if you said you like showers, they'd be like, how suspicious. What? That's so incredible! Of course, after the 30s, everyone realized that was a completely insane method and that, well, theoretical testing wasn't flawless, it was still better than the alternative. But no, really, social psychology is incredible, and it goes to show, like, I think that even the ways that social psychologists have tried to study human nature say a lot about human nature. So I just genuinely think it's awesome, and I think that everyone should take social psychology a little bit more seriously. Which is difficult because there's been a social psychology crisis in which, because the news is so eager to put out kind of studies that are learning about something for the first time, a lot of studies haven't been replicated properly and don't really have the right amount of scientific evidence to back them up. In fact, only like 30%, I think, were able to be truly replicated successfully, which is really disappointing. So I kind of just wanted to make this video because I wanted other people to realize how important social psychology was and how important it is, and if I can even convince a couple people that we should care about replicating studies, then I think that's really great, and I really hope that you'll consider these sorts of things when you're looking at the news in the future. So I really hope that in the future, if you're reading the news and there's another article that's like, dogs hate being hugged, it makes them anxious, you'll sit there and you'll be like, huh, I wonder what qualifications this study has. I wonder if it was done on an adequate sample size. I wonder if it's been replicated. I wonder what scientific evidence it was backing this to begin with. I wonder what their hypothesis was and what interest the group might have. So, if anyone can do that, if anyone has any interest, then I think that this is a successful video. Bye! See ya, friendo.